see everyone. And I would like to welcome everyone to the annual River Ward Women's Day Speaker Series. My name is Riley Brockington. I am the City Councillor for River Ward, and it's great to have this opportunity for this annual event again. The last public event I was able to host in person was actually the 2020 International Women's Day Speaker Series. And I hope as we continue to transition that this may be the last public session I host virtually. So hopefully this spring we'll start to either host hybrid events and meetings or in person. So hopefully the worst of COVID is behind us, but it's certainly not completely behind us yet. River Ward and the City of Ottawa are on the unceded, never surrendered lands of the Algonquin Anishinaabe First Nations. We honor their long history of welcoming many nations to this beautiful territory and uphold and uplift the voiced and values of our host nation. So, International Women's Day. What is it exactly? It's a global day celebrating the social, economic, cultural, and political achievements of women. The day also marks a call to action for accelerating gender parity. International Women's Day was first celebrated on March 19th, 1911. And the idea of an International Women's Day was inspired by America's National Women's Day, which was on February 28th, 1909, declared by the Socialist Party of America. So why do we celebrate it? It's a focal point in the movement of women's rights and the truth that even with all the efforts to promote true gender equality, the United Nations reports 90% of people around the world have at least one bias towards women in various areas, including reproduction, health, politics, employment, education. This is why International Women's Day is a day to celebrate and recognize the achievements of incredible women around the world, across Canada, and here in Ottawa. What is this year's theme? The campaign theme for International Women's Day 2022 is Break the Bias. It calls on all of us to imagine a greater equal world free of bias, deconstructing stereotypes, and rejecting discrimination, where we can show our solidarity with women and encourage further people to help forge a more inclusive world. We have a fantastic panel for you this evening. We have been very privileged to have had some very successful and accomplished women who have attended our sessions in the past, and certainly tonight is no exception. I would first like to introduce our guest host, City Councillor Carol-Ann Meehan. Carol-Ann is a native of Pembroke. She studied journalism at Ryerson and embarked on a career that saw her work in many Canadian cities, including Pembroke, Sudbury, Edmonton, and Calgary. She moved to Ottawa in 1989 to join the CJOH News team as co-anchor with Max Keeping, a position she enjoyed for 27 years. In 2015, Carol-Ann launched a weblog called Local Stories, Local People. She also hosted the Carol-Ann Meehan Show on 1310 News. She followed that with Coffee With, a series of interviews with local residents. Carol-Ann made the jump into municipal politics in 2018. She was elected City Councillor of Ward 22, Gloucester South Nepean on October 22nd, 1918. She brings extensive community knowledge and engagement on the job. Carol-Ann lives with her 2 children and her dog on the western side of the Vimy Ridge Memorial Bridge, on the western side of the Vimy Memorial Bridge in the ward. Now that we have the printed bio, let me tell you about the real Carol-Ann Meehan, who I call my friend and colleague. We are on council very, very appreciative of Carol-Ann's not just presence on council, but her continuous interventions at council and committee, speaking for the average taxpayer and advocating for her ward and a better city of Ottawa. And its voices and advocacy and passion that Carol Ann brings to her position that we truly need on City Council. So we are very fortunate that Carol Ann was elected in 2018. We need Carol Ann on council after 2022. And I'm very, very happy that she's joining us tonight. So Carol Ann, welcome. And please introduce our panel.
Riley, thank you so much for those kind words. I need them tonight. But it really is a privilege to be here, and thank you for inviting me. Your introduction, didn't tell you everyone that I've been in the workforce for 50 years. And over the course of those years, I've witnessed a lot of progress in terms of working conditions for women, but we still have a long way to go. So I do appreciate events like this in International Women's Day. So thank you very much, Riley. And yes, as Riley said, we have three wonderful speakers with us tonight. And I'm always curious to see the path that women take to get to a position where they are role models and leaders. So I'm looking forward to hearing everybody speak tonight. So without further ado, our speakers this evening are, let's start with, our first speaker tonight is Rachel Wilson. She is the CEO of the Ottawa Food Bank. Our second speaker is Jamie Kwong, who is Executive Director of the Ottawa Safety Council, and Maureen McTeer, who you know as an author and a lawyer. They're going to bring different perspectives to our series here this evening. As Riley laid out, we're going to have our speakers, and at the end of our third speaker, then there's going to be a question and answer. So you can type in your question in the chat, or you can wait and ask it live after the speakers are finished. So without further ado, it is my ultimate pleasure to introduce our first speaker this evening, Rachel Wilson. 2021 was an historic year for the Ottawa Food Bank. Why, you say? Well, because in its 38-year history, 2021 was the first year it hired its first female CEO. Ottawa Food Bank. And a great choice it was. Prior to that, Jamie was a member of the Ottawa Food Bank's executive team as the Director, Communications and Development. She's been a professional fundraiser in Ottawa for over 20 years, and in recognition to her commitment to the community, she was recently awarded the Outstanding Fundraising Executive Award by the Association of Fundraising Professionals. Rachel is committed to helping everyone in our community thrive, and she believes in the power of change through philanthropy, partnership, and empowerment. Rachel was born and raised here in Ottawa, although she has left a few times, flown the nest, as we would say. She always comes back to her hometown. She lives in Orleans with her husband, 2 children, and her golden retriever. Please welcome Rachel Wilson. Rachel.
Thanks so much, Carol Ann. I did also forget to mention I share my office with a guinea pig. So should you hear any bizarre noises behind the curtain, it's probably the guinea pig who's decided it's hungry or needs something. It's an interesting animal. It's my pleasure to be here today. As Carol Ann said, I am from Ottawa, born and raised, and I've worked for 22 years now as a fundraiser here in Ottawa. I did have a slightly odd path to get here. I actually started out in theater, believe it or not. And I went to Canterbury High School and went to the Concordia University, got a Bachelor of Fine Arts in Theater. But giving back to the community has always been very much a part of who I am. I grew up in Centertown at James and Bronson across from McNabb Park. And I used to be a lifeguard there, and I remember many days where we would have kids come and spend the entire day at the pool without a lunch, without a breakfast, without a towel. This was sort of pre-sunscreen days, but these were kids who really didn't have anything at home, and that always really stuck with me. And actually, I remember about 30 years ago volunteering at the Ottawa Food Bank to sort food. So it's very much a part of who I am and a part of my family values as well. But I decided to pursue theater for whatever reason, and then quickly realized I don't enjoy rejection. So theater and acting probably was not for me, and decided to actually go behind the scenes and worked as a general manager for a theater company. I worked in Toronto for a year. and then realized that artists are a particular breed that I probably was not skilled at working with, and came back to Ottawa. I had my very first job at Christie Lake Kids, and I've worked in healthcare and sports fundraising and the arts. I've been all over the map in terms of fundraising, but working at the Ottawa Food Bank is an absolute dream for me. I have always wanted to be a part of something bigger than myself, and I love fundraising. I truly believe that it connects people and passion and commitment with solutions. And I honestly believe that philanthropy is one of the strongest ways to change the world. I've been at the food bank for 6 years now. I started as the Director of Communications of Development and Fundraising. And it's the organization, the hands-on impact, the tangibility of the work that we do has been so incredible to be a part of, particularly during the pandemic. We know in food security that women, particularly single mothers, are at greater risk for food insecurity, and the pandemic has disproportionately affected women through job loss and through deepening poverty. As an example, we've seen our Baby Basics program, so diapers and formula and cereal, we've had to increase that budget by $100,000 this year because of the increased demand from women in the community. The Ottawa Food Bank wants nothing more than to close our doors. We've been around for 38 years. We've been putting out food for 38 years, but honestly, it really hasn't made much of a difference. Food insecurity is not about food, and it's not about hunger. It's a symptom of poverty, and it's a lack of income. So we know that we need living wages, social assistance rates that keep pace, and a national childcare strategy that is affordable for everyone. So for me, it was really important that at the Ottawa Food Bank, we also create an environment for women that is conducive to the challenges that we've been facing through pandemic, but also recognizing that the majority of the fundraising world is led by women, or sorry, is run by women, women in positions in fundraising. Many of them were affected because of the schools and daycares closing. So we made sure that there was more flexibility so that women could work when they needed to, and that they were well supported and their stress was reduced. So I did become CEO last year, and it has been quite a learning curve for me as the first female CEO of the Ottawa Food Bank. It hasn't been a particularly smooth ride. It's very interesting when you become a CEO and as a woman for some of the advice that you get along the way. I've been told that I shouldn't be funny. And not that I'm, a stand-up comedian, but it's basically like telling me I need to change my skin color to green. And when someone said that to me, that, CEOs are serious, CEOs aren't funny, that, that there's a particular way that a CEO acts. And that was a real moment for me where I went, that's not who I want to be. I don't want to be a cookie cutter version of a CEO, whatever that is supposed to look like. I've never seen the manual. I say we burn that manual. I really want to be authentically who I am. And I think as women, that is incredibly important, that we remain true to ourselves and that we not try to be our male counterparts or our predecessors or anyone else other than ourselves. I had really hard conversations with myself about how I was going to show up and what I was not willing to change about myself. And being funny was one of the things that I said, I'm just not willing to change that about myself. There are, ways that I want to lead and how I want to communicate and connect with people. And that is how I have decided that I will show up every day, because I think that's really important. I also think that it's really important that we create space for diversity. I had a mentor who was in a high-level position, and I wanted nothing more to be in his role. But I didn't feel like I had any of the personality traits. I'm actually an introvert, believe it or not. And I didn't think that I would be able to go out into the world and have conversations with strangers, and how do you pick up the phone? And I just didn't know how I was going to be exactly like him. And one day we literally did a test about where you should be and what type of personality you are. And I think, although you can't fail a personality test, I'm pretty sure I came close to failing a personality test, because I didn't answer as myself. I answered as what I thought I should be. And after I failed that personality test, and basically the personality test said, you'll never be a leader and you shouldn't bother. I spoke to this gentleman, the mentor, and he said there is no cookie cutter definition of a successful leader. There is space for every person to share their passion and support amazing causes. And I have learned it takes way too many brain cells to try and be somebody else. And it's much easier and much more successful to be myself. Not everyone is going to like you, and that's hard, but that's okay. And instead, I've learned to trust that I am enough as I am. And we don't want to create organizations where everyone acts and works the same. We need diversity in our organizations. We certainly don't need cookie cutters of me running around. We'll probably be hitting our heads on doors all over the place. I'm 6 feet tall. But diversity is critical to the success and driving change in our communities. We need to work with staff that challenge the way we do things, so the communities we work with and the opportunities that we create. So one of the ways we do that at the Ottawa Food Bank is a very simple thing is posting salary ranges when we're hiring. And we do that because we know that women typically make 80 cents on the dollar for men. And I know that here in Ottawa, although we like to think that that's not the case, it is the case here in Ottawa as well. So by posting the salary, we're being transparent and we're ensuring that everyone is, in the same ballpark. For a lot of organizations, this is really uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to post those salary ranges, but the fundraising community has specifically said in order to reduce the gap for women and particularly women of color, this is something that's important for us to do. So the Ottawa Food Bank has done that with all of our positions going forward, that we will post salaries to ensure that we are being transparent and ensuring that everyone has the opportunity to make the same as their counterparts. One of the other things I have learned is about failure, that failure breeds success. And I have learned that if you are brave enough, often enough, you will fail. And there was a part of me that always thought that failure was a moral failure. I would never call myself a perfectionist. If I have to build an IKEA bookcase after about an hour with an Allen key, whatever shape it is, that's probably good enough for me. But I'm very driven and I have an immense sense of responsibility to this community, working with vulnerable communities. And when you fail communities, it can feel like such a moral disaster. But one of my greatest mentors had a profound impact on my career by giving me responsibility and the space to fail. And he empowered me and trusted me to make decisions, to innovate and explore and create a safe space where failure was embraced as a key step to success. And that's what we do. Again, that's the kind of environment I'm trying to create at the Ottawa Food Bank. It's one of the few things that was good with the pandemic. We literally had to do things on the fly and we had to innovate and try things, and we failed along the way, but it really allowed us to acknowledge that failure was part of our road. And that when we make a mistake, we have to be kind, not only to each other, but to ourselves. That, smooth seas never made a skilled sailor, but every mistake will teach us something and set us on the right path towards success. As I entered this new phase as a CEO, it's been a year now. Other than showing up authentically as myself, I'm learning leadership is not perfection. I always assumed that anyone who was a leader or a CEO knew everything and had answers for everything. And I have definitely learned that that is not the case. And that it's okay to say that you don't know. It is messy, and some days I feel like I am on top of the world, and other days I think, do they know who they hired? Why on earth am I doing this? They have no clue what I'm doing. I have no clue what I'm doing. But admitting that I don't know what I don't know and when I need help is really, it's creating space for other people to do the same. I have a current mentor right now, and she has really helped me to look at values and understand how I can use my values to really make decisions. And over the last 2 years, with the immense struggles of the pandemic, focusing on why I do this work has really been a guiding star for me. The other really key thing, I think, on International Women's Day and Women's Month is to talk about mentoring and to make space and opportunity for more women, young women, women of color to have opportunities. I have been very fortunate. I come from a family who were well educated, therefore I was well educated. I've had many opportunities and many great mentors along the way. And it's really important for me to pass that on. I've had the immense responsibility of mentoring and leading staff for many years, but I think every leader has to prioritize supporting and helping the next generations of fundraisers and leaders in our community. As I said before, the not-for-profit industry is dominated by women. About 75% of women, 75% of those working in fundraising are women, but only 53% are in senior leadership roles. So the ratio doesn't follow when we go to leadership. And I think that we need to do a better job, and we need to use mentoring to help fix that. Our sector is filled with change makers and disruptors and champions, and we are demanding better for our community, whether that's in hospitals, in the arts, at our schools, or in homes across the country. But we also have to be asking for better in our workplaces, better for each other and better for ourselves. And most importantly, we have the power to change lives every day. There is no greater responsibility to our organizations and to our communities and to those of us who work in not-for-profit than to ensure that there are people better and smarter than us ready to take over and lead the organizations. This is a responsibility and a gift that I do not take lightly, and I encourage others to take it as a sincere responsibility. And I'm very grateful to the mentors who have allowed me the opportunity to grow and fail and be who I am every day. And want to thank everyone for joining us today.
Wow, that was awesome, Rachel. That's why I think women do so well in some of these positions, because they break stereotypes, they bring their bravery and authenticity to a position. And I think whoever follows you, if it's a man afterwards, he's going to have a hard time following you, because you're redefining the role. And I think that's what women are very, very good at. I wish you all the best. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Rachel Wilson, the CEO, the first one in 38 years of the Ottawa Food Bank. And fabulous job, Rachel. You're a great speaker. Thank you so very, very much. And I know people are going to have a lot of questions for you at the end of our third speaker, okay? So just hang in with us, okay? Great. Okay, so let's go on. Our next speaker is Ms. Jamie Kwong. Ready, Jamie? Okay. Jamie has served in our community leading, in community leading nonprofit organizations for over 10 years. She has worked as executive director of the Vanier Business Improvement Area, and even brought in a former dragon from Dragon's Den to join her at times with the Orleans Chamber of Commerce. During the height of the pandemic, when Jamie was the executive director of the Ottawa Music Industry Coalition, she brokered a partnership with the City of Ottawa that resulted in local musicians performing all around the city to enhance local campaigns in neighborhoods while she was the executive director. In her current position, she's focused on the important task of ensuring our roads are safe for all residents. I've had the honor of being briefed by Jamie, and I think she is a force to be reckoned with. Our roads will definitely become safer under her guidance. But without further ado, I'd like to introduce Jamie Kwong, the Executive Director of the Ottawa Safety Council. Jamie.
Oh, well, big thank you to you all for organizing this. Thank you, Councillor Brockington, for inviting me to take part. And Caroline Mien, Councillor Caroline Mien, thank you for taking the time. It was such a busy time period, and you made time to be accessible, for me to ask questions, for me to share what we're doing, to see what we can do to make each other's neighborhoods safer. So I do appreciate that. And Riley, your staff are amazing for helping organize this. And everyone here tonight, that you're joining us on a Thursday night. And so really, really nice to see you all. And I can't wait till we can do this in person. I see a few familiar faces, names in the attendee list. So I just want to give a shout out to local music. We have the mom of a local musician, Jessie Lindsay. If you haven't checked her out, she's amazing, and her mom is here. And my adopted mom is here, who used to be my boss. So I'll take you along that story shortly. But so it's really nice to see some familiar faces and names here. Yeah, so I'm so inspired. Oh my gosh, I love surrounding myself with inspiring people, because I'm always always wanting to push myself to be better, to do more, and to create opportunity for others. So this is really neat to be part of this. But I'm at the Ottawa Road Safety Council. It's kind of a weird trajectory, as Carol-Ann just outlined. It's from small business. And even before that, I was working in women's crisis centers. So working on support lines and fundraising for women's charities that raise awareness on violence awareness and support systems. So it's quite a strange trajectory, but where I really was intrigued by this opportunity at the Ottawa Safety Council, which I started in January, is that all of us play a role in creating safer roads. And I'm a pedestrian mostly. I walk a dog all over the city. I'm also a motorist, but also I ride my bike now. COVID has, if anything, inspired me to be a cyclist, and just learning the road and how to navigate that safely and just learning how people interact with it. We all have so much power to have that impact on our community, and it's so quick that our decisions, our carelessness, our impatience can, like that, change someone's life. So that's where the Ottawa Road Safety Council, it really appealed to me as, what can I do working with the amazing team that we have of staff, the amazing dedicated volunteers of the board of directors, but also our amazing instructors that are part of our programs, and creating safer roads for everybody. And what I want to do is bring together more collaboration so that more people know about our organization, that we can create more strategic partnerships, and that we're all just doing something a little bit to make our roads that much safer. So when we leave the house, we're not wondering, am I going to make it there safely? But a little bit about Ottawa Safety Council. Our primary thing that we're known for is our program. So if you've ever seen a crossing guard in our city, we have 300 of them across our beautiful city, then you have been connected to the Ottawa Safety Council. So we have over 300 guards. We work with the city to provide crossing guards to various intersections near schools. We hire guards throughout the year. We're constantly recruiting, but basically 262 intersections across our city have our crossing guards there to help students get to and from school safely. So that's one of our key signature programs. And then our other one is motorcycle training program. It's kind of odd. It's a little secret of our organization, but somehow people find us. We're one of the top leading schools of basically getting someone who has never been on a motorcycle. After they've taken our courses, not only are they confident, not only do they have the skills to navigate the road safely and those type of things, but also they will be licensed. So we have instructors that are certified to license our M1 and M2 motorcycle licenses. So if anyone here is interested in going over to two wheels and hasn't yet, please do reach out, and I can connect you to some great people that have a passion for building confidence in motorcycle riders. And it's all done by volunteers. So we have 40 volunteer instructors who have been doing this for over 50 years. So when we talk about an exciting time, this year, I'm joining Ottawa Safety Council at a time when it's celebrating milestones galore. So we are in the 65th year of operation. We have been running the motorcycle program for over 50 years, and we are celebrating 20 years of offering the adult crossing guard to the city of Ottawa. So it's a very big year. So we have some plans along the road, and I'll be inviting the community to various things throughout the year. But that's a little bit about our organization. And we are really much an employer of a flexible part-time work employer for crossing guards, especially community-minded individuals when they're looking to get more involved. So that's one of our leading kind of roles, is creating that opportunity for people to get engaged in the community. We also run a lot of educational programs that we bring right into the school. I don't remember as a child learning road safety in school, but now we have built curriculums that they can plug and play, and various school boards can take that and put that into their classes. And we have educational programs for multiple different grades, so it could reach different groups. And we also coach parents on how to, we have a new program rolling out this year about how to install a booster seat properly, like just even like teaching parents, just those type of key things that just could add a little more safety to their car and to their family. So that's a little bit about OSC and my excitement for joining. I've been an executive director now for 10 years. Time goes by so fast. And in this call tonight is one of the first people that actually believed in me. So I I just finished school when I was 27. I finished a master's degree, wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I was volunteering at a women's crisis center. And then actually I got a job there right away doing fundraising and support work. So one of my first jobs was really about listening, believing women who have experienced the most horrific trauma, and also working with the community to get support for a cause that sometimes people, it was before Me Too. So it was before when we were really having conversations, tough conversations about violence against women. And so I was able to work with an amazing group of advocates and support workers to create a space where women could call and feel believed and have support over something that's super, super life-changing and tough. So shortly after that, I then branched out, and I was really inspired by entrepreneurs, because every time I reached out to local businesses to help sponsor community charity events, they were always so quick to say yes. And so entrepreneurs really fascinated me. So when I had the opportunity to apply for the executive director role at the Orleans Chamber of Commerce, I took it. I have no business background, no entrepreneurial background or skills. And I walked in to this interview with 4 professionals that were quite intimidating. They were facing me, and I just remember, I just gave it. I just gave it at the interview, and I was just super excited to see what I could bring to that organization. A Chamber of Commerce is not really known to be the most lively, the most diverse. I was 29 at that time, and so even like, it was just interesting. It was just so out of my ballpark. And I just really wanted to immerse myself with entrepreneurs and learn, but also see what I could do to support our local businesses. And they took a chance on me. And honestly, it was that opportunity at the Orleans Chamber that really shifted my trajectory in our community. It taught me so many things that to this day I carry with me. It taught me about the more you get involved in the community, the more you're going to feel invested, the more you create opportunities for others, the more you're going to see just like how that plays out, and playing a role in that is really meaningful, that you want to build meaningful connections. Business networking is often, it's something that people find really cringy, like, oh, going to an event, giving business cards. But it doesn't have to be, because really it's about building meaningful relationships. It's about finding commonalities with people and about seeing how we can all problem solve and support and peer support each other. Because what we're trying to do is, be it support women in a charity experiencing horrific trauma, be it supporting an entrepreneur that's trying to make it and put food on the table for their family, be it we all want a community that's vibrant with stores that we're investing in, and people's kids are working there. It's all part of a healthy community that all plays a role. And so this job really taught me how to, one, manage a nonprofit. Like I said, I didn't have formal training and necessarily in business and management. So I really got this opportunity to learn. And I think along the lines of what Rachel said, having the people that are there to support you, to provide you with this opportunity to try out things, to test things, to expand your creativity, and in fulfilling the mandates of an organization, it's so important. And they gave me that. This board of directors, this dedicated group of business owners gave me that opportunity. And from there, I got to work with political representatives of all levels, and everyone was just very open and collaborative. And so that's where I really learned from mentors such as Councillor Bob Manette. He was really positive about including community organizations into things that benefited the community. I was able to work with all the East End City councillors and MP and MPP of that area. And it just really showed me the strength of a community when you come together. Yes, you might all have different mandates, different political leanings, different agendas in the end, but there's something there that's going to bring everyone together. And that's what we all focus on. And so I've kind of just carved out this space of, how do I find that spot that I can bring people together? So that's kind of where, while all my organizations and all my jobs have been so different with different audiences, what I bring, I guess, is what I focus on is I love bringing people together, working towards something that brings a benefit to more people, to the community, sheds light on something more people should know about, and doing so in a positive, collaborative way. So when Rachel was talking about how she had to acknowledge who she is and how that fits stereotypes of or people's understandings of a certain idea. I had to work with that too. The idea of professional and stoic, the stoic business person, that was never me. I was small, bubbly, and I would say things that were just kind of odd. But what I want to do is I always want to be authentic. I always want to be showing that my intent is to support and help. And along the way, we do big projects together for the benefit, but we have fun along the way. And so that's always what I try to do and bring to whatever table I'm at. And so I grapple with the idea of success, and I've worked on that through the last few years. What is success? I think all the time we see we see people, we make assumptions, we assume things about how they got there or what they must be like. And with success, I guess, regardless of how things appear, for me, it's always been, am I doing something that is in alignment with what I'm meant to be doing? Am I making a positive impact in some way outside of myself? Am I bringing people along the way and creating opportunities for people who might not have opportunities? Am I raising the awareness of something that would be beneficial for more people to know? When all those things are addressed, I feel I'm in alignment. And I guess for me, that's what I find success. And like, there's nothing more rewarding than doing all that, blood, sweat, and tears of pulling off something as a community and seeing it come to fruition and seeing people feel involved in the community. I don't think there's anything more rewarding than that. I love that. So that's kind of where I sit. I've had to learn boundaries over the last few years. I think working in nonprofits, it can be really tough. And I think it's similar for anything. I think our work ethic, our culture really teaches us that, when you love something, you get really immersed in it, but you have to find time to separate yourself, separate your identity, even sometimes from your job, as much as you have a passion for it. It's really important that you spend that time away, because I think it's so easy to be burnt out. And if you're more beneficial to a community if you can be there, be present, and be motivated and energized. And so making sure to do those checkpoints with yourself. And that's something I've had to learn over the last few years of disconnecting with social media. As much as I love using it for engaging the community, it's such a powerful tool. There has to be a distinction of when that starts and when that ends. It's about, getting out into nature more and appreciating that. And I think the silver lining of COVID has been really to see how work can be done differently, how we need to acknowledge the injustices and differences in what people are able to do, that we need to find ways to address that, that we do have to find more of a balance in life, and that we have that time to slow things down, to think about things thoroughly, to come about ideas with different angles, to problem solve, to innovate, and to try things out and be okay, just like with Rachel was saying, to test things out and be okay with failure. And yeah, I think some of the most challenging experiences I've ever experienced has really been a life lesson for me in testing my resilience, testing my ability to problem solve, and just knowing that you can get through things. And despite how tough everything can be, you're so much stronger than what you think you are. And I think I see that with a lot of women. I see women doubting themselves sometimes, women not applying for jobs, women seeing that they don't measure up to certain things, so they just don't even put their foot in to try. And what I always want to do is encourage women that like to take that leap, to offer, okay, if you don't meet all the things that someone's looking for, what other values and qualities can you bring to the table? Because that is very much needed. And don't screen yourself out. Like, don't do yourself that disservice of not feeling that you're not, welcome to that table. You very much are. And so it's about one, believing in yourself to get yourself to take advantage of any opportunity that you could navigate, surrounding yourself with those champions. So yes, we sometimes will doubt ourselves, but surround yourself, even if it's just one champion that's in your corner, that makes a big difference for when you're feeling, the ego's bruised, you had some losses, and you need to pick yourself back up. There are people there that see you in a completely different way than how you see yourself, because I think we are our worst critic of ourselves. For me, it's one step at a time. I've never been somebody that plans, here's my trajectory for the next 10 years. I've never really been like that. I've been, here's my focus right now and for the next foreseeable future. And this is what I'm going to give to it. And I'm going to give my best to it and see what happens there. And really, that's kind of what's led to different opportunities. I've been so appreciative of whenever people have had faith in me for being able to fulfill an idea, an opportunity. So what I want to do is continue that on. How do I create opportunities for others so that we're continuing the cycle of building each other up, and especially as women, opening as many doors as possible. Some of the key things I want to wrap up on are, I knew this girl and she was 17. She was 17. She had dropped out of high school for a few years. Lots of chaos, lots of, stuff going on. Her guidance counselor said to her point blank, you're not gonna graduate high school. And her future basically looked pretty bleak. Her situation changed, and she was able to finish high school. She was able to secure a massive student loan thanks to living at home with her low-income single mother. The benefits of that, you can secure a student loan sometimes, whereas sometimes the criteria is harder if that's not the case. Luckily, she got some scholarships. She moved to a whole new city, didn't know a soul, and rebuilt her life. She got a bachelor's degree, stuck around for some more schooling because there was more opportunity there with scholarships, finished her master's, and then started working in the community at various nonprofits. And she rescued a few dogs along the way, or I think they rescued her. So if I was to believe that that guidance counselor, I probably wouldn't have finished high school. So I guess my biggest thing is you have to believe in yourself no matter what, no matter how tough, because eventually you're going to get through it and you're going to be that much stronger, and you're going to be able to add a positive benefit to at least one other person. So I would just like to say that to any woman out there, you are stronger than you think you are. Thank you.
Oh my God, Jamie, thank you. That was amazing. I had a feeling you were that young 17-year-old. You are inspiring, truly inspiring. The energy and the authenticity and the bravery that you bring. I hope every young woman can hear what you said.
I've never told that to anybody, and I was debating whether or not to tell people. And I guess.
Thank you for sharing it with us. No,
Yeah.
seriously, Jamie, thank you for sharing it with us, because I think we all, no matter at what stage in our lives we are at, I think all of us women doubt ourselves. We doubt our skill set. And it reminds me of a story, a study that I had read somewhere, that men will always go for jobs that they are underqualified. They think that they're qualified, but they're underqualified. And women do just the reverse. They will talk themselves out of applying for jobs because they think they're underqualified.
Yeah.
So fearless. I wish you could bottle that and give it to more women, because we need that. Thank you so much.
Thank you for
so
this.
much. I wish I could give you a hug, but
I will claim that. May I claim that later on?
Absolutely. Thank you for choosing us to share that with. I think a lot of us needed to hear that tonight. Thanks. Okay. And I know that people will have questions for you at the end of this. But first, we have a final fabulous speaker to bring you. And it's my honor to introduce to you tonight a woman who really doesn't really need an introduction, but Maureen, we're going to do it anyway, okay? Our third and final, but not our last speaker, certainly not our last speaker. What do I want to say? See, I'm going to be authentic and say, I don't know what the heck I'm saying. Let me just read what's written here for me. For more than 4 decades, Maureen McTeer has been a leading advocate for gender equality in Canada and has been an influential role model for other women at home and abroad. She's been a strong advocate for greater public funding for all aspects of women's healthcare and a staunch defender of women's health and reproductive rights. Her interests and activities have spanned a wide range of key social, legal, and ethical issues, and she's worked to engage citizens in discussion and debate on all the major issues where science and society intersect. Maureen is an expert on medical law and public policy and was an original member of the Federal Royal Commission on New Reproductive Technologies, as well as being a member of the Global Commission on Pollution, Health and Development, whose report appeared in The Lancet in 2017. Maureen McTeer is an author of 4 best-selling books, and her latest book, Fertility, 40 Years of Change by Irwin Law, will be released in April. Oh, there's something to look forward to next month. A lifelong volunteer, Ms. McTeer urges others to volunteer to make their communities stronger. Leading by example, she has served on many non-for-profit boards, including as co-chair of the National Experts Commission of the Canadian Nurses Association, as a founding member and chair of the advisory board of the Shirley E. Greenberg Women's Health Centre here in Ottawa, as a lay member of the National Council of the Society of Obstetricians and Gynecologists of Canada, and of the Accreditation Committee of Canadian Medical Schools, which she's not done yet, and as a member of the Board of Governors of the University of Ottawa and the Ottawa Heart Institute, as the Canadian representative of International White Ribbon Alliance for Safe Motherhood, and the national patron of the Canadian Osteoporosis Society. So without further ado, the woman behind all those achievements, Maureen McTeer. Maureen, take it away.
Well, thanks. Thank you very much for that, Carol Ann. Shows you how old I am. But thank you, Councillor Brockington, for inviting me, and Carol Ann for the introduction. And thank you also, Rachel and Jamie, who of course touched our hearts with your story, with your life. It's a pleasure for me, an honor for me to be with 2 so dynamic young women, and it's I thank you for including me. Many of the experiences that you've shared with us are also those shared and lived by so many other women, including myself. It's obvious to me from your comments and by your actions that both our counselors, but also both Jamie and Rachel, have decided to use your skills, your energy, your experience, even your resources to make a difference in the lives of so many other people, and to make the community that we love and call Ottawa a better place for us all. We're lucky to have you, and good luck going forward. My own experiences have probably their own uniqueness, partly because I am older than you are. And I would say that that uniqueness is in 2 ways. First, because I am older, and I had a birthday, which is why I'm harping on the age part, and it was a significant change. So numbers get bigger, and they may only be numbers, but they're awfully big going forward. But partly because I'm older than both Rachel and Jamie, my experiences were shaped by living at the beginning of the second wave of feminism in Canada. And I think that because of that, it allows me to see what we have accomplished as women and what needs still to be done. Things were different when I was starting out in this new second wave of feminism. One was in terms of access to professional schools. I offer one example. At the University of Ottawa, where I went to my undergraduate degree and my law degree, I was in an undergraduate degree, and at that time I was president of the University of Ottawa's English Debating Society. At that time, the president of the English Debating Society was always offered a place at law school. They didn't have to apply. It was a given. They were president of the Debating Society, they went to law school. I was the first woman president of the English Debating Society at the university, and I was not offered a place. To quote the law professor responsible for that invitation, whom I went to see in his office when I had not yet received the invitation, he was startled when I walked into his office, made my point, and he said, well, blushing, it never occurred to me that you would want to go to law school. Well, to give him credit, he was always a real support to me when I finally did get into law school. He did manage to send the invitation, and we used to joke about it actually, sometimes in class. I think the irony, of course, is that he had 4 daughters, and I have a feeling he's learned a lot as they were growing up. But the year also, a second story really, the year I began law school in September of 1973, there were 21 women allowed into law school that year, of 120 in first year. Before that, the Dean of Common Law, had refused to allow more than 8 girls into his law school. We were, according to him, about to bring the averages down. Today, as we all know, all of the law schools across Canada, as a rule, have more women in first year than they have men. A short historical comment on the old girl here is I was born in Ottawa at what was then the Grace Maternity Hospital. I grew up on an acreage, small acreage, east of Ottawa between Cumberland Village and Rockland. I was the second of 6 children, 5 girls, 1 boy. I used to always say, because my father wasn't sure how to raise girls, he asked his friends who had boys how they were raising their children, and he would raise us accordingly, which sometimes stood us in good stead. Although I have noticed on occasion that my behavior, if it were like the behavior of my male friends, would not earn me kudos, but rather see me criticized as being too upfront, too arrogant, too male, not feminine enough. But I attended a 1-room school for elementary school, a French separate school, which allowed me to become bilingual. My older sister, Colleen, and I were the first on my mother's side of the family to go to university. There were 36 first cousins, and we were the first 2. In fact, only 2 other actually, went and earned BAs, but at night school. At the University of Ottawa, I earned a BA, and then I earned a law degree, as we know. Like me, we all went to law school with a purpose. We went to change our society, and we were very much committed to not only women's equality, but to social justice writ large. I note that the year I started law school, and as I had said, it was the beginning of the second wave of feminism, the Supreme Court heard a case called the Murdoch case. It was about a woman, a rancher woman in Alberta, who did everything a ranch wife would do and more. And as her husband left her, they were divorced, and she was left with nothing. The case that went all the way to the Supreme Court of Canada, challenging really the provincial laws with respect to distribution of property, said that she had done no more than what any other rancher's wife would do. And because she brought no money to the table in the marriage on the ranch, that she had in fact had made no contribution under the law that was recognized under the law. So that was our first little attempt. We founded the National Association of Women in the Law, and they became across the country. Every province changed their legislation within the first decade. Of course, those of you who are watching this know that eventually that led us to the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, led us to Section 15 of the Charter, which guarantees equality for women, sexual equality, and unlike our American sisters, guarantees both substantive equality as well as procedural equality. That means that Section 15.2 includes affirmative action. And we have now the tools to ensure that going forward, that we can achieve some of this equality that has eluded us, and which Rachel mentioned, Jamie mentioned, and which all of us have sadly still see happening with respect to equal pay for work of equal value, as an example, for child reform, child care, all of these kinds of issues, which at law school we were so convinced we had resolved. While I was at law school, I had Catherine, who I'm convinced knows more people, is much more popular, and certainly more knowledgeable than either my husband or myself, but maybe that's just an overstatement of how wonderful she is, but we're obviously rather biased. But at law school, when I had Catherine, later on, I worked with a firm. And again, in those days, if you were a man and you were single or married, with or without children, when you were about 7 years in, you were offered a partnership. For women, if you were married and had children, you were put on the mummy track. And the mummy track meant that you would have to wait another 2 or more years in order to be offered the chance to make partnership. And that had a very negative effect on the practice of law, in large part because so many women had gone in with high ideals and really couldn't believe that this was happening. And if you ever want, there's so much been written on this, but it was something that remains with many of us, in a bitter sense, remains with many of us. So I guess there were 3 experiences in my life that have given me the greatest pleasure, and that's over and above Catherine and my 2 grandchildren. The first is the success that some success that I've had fighting for social justice and policies that have enhanced and improved women's health and women's rights, both here at home, but also in other countries around the world, which I've had an opportunity to do in part because of my husband's positions, but also my commitment to international development. The second one is all that I've managed to learn and in the research and the writing of my books. A little bit like Jamie, I have an eclectic set of interests, and therefore I'm always trying a new theme in writing my books, and therefore I learn a great deal. Along that line, the third point really is all that I've learned about health, about some of the major issues where science and society intersect, that I have learned and I believe have contributed to as a lecturer in health law, science, and public policy, both here in Canada, in the US, and in the UK. So thank you, Carol Ann, for the little plug about the book coming out next month. I think it's pretty good. I wrote it in part because I had nothing else to do for the last 2 years, which is not quite true, but still close enough. Anyway, so it's called Fertility, 40 Years of Change. And I think anyone interested in the issues of reproductive technologies and genetic and genome research will find it interesting. And I know from some of the people with whom I spoke going along writing this book, that fertility is a major issue in the lives of very, very many women and couples here in Canada. So I'd like to leave you, if I could, with 3 messages. First, you must always be ready. Women, men too, but boys and girls, but certainly women have to always be ready and willing to stand up and be counted. That's been a theme that was mentioned by Rachel and Jamie, but I think it's one worth repeating. No one else can do that for you. And that means you have to take risks, which is not very pleasant, actually, taking risks, I've decided, but it's essential. And don't let anyone ever tell you that you can't do what you have your mind set on doing. what you have dreamed about doing and really want to do. The second message, if you will, that I'd like to leave with you is to return a favor. People are continuously, although sometimes we don't even know it, they're continuously giving us favors, doing favors for us, big things, little things. So return the favor. Even if it's only making food for someone who has done a favor for you, or buying them some flowers, be loyal to them and support them in return. Don't be afraid either to ask them for help, because that's one of the reasons that that to me is very important, to ask other people for help. And something Jamie mentioned, and again, I repeat it because it is absolutely essential. The pandemic, I think, has shown us the importance of our own strength, but also the importance of resilience. Life has this very mean knack of throwing curveballs at us, and doing so usually when we're at our most vulnerable, which of course makes it even worse. The pandemic did that to us, I believe. It shook our life to the core, and who knows what tomorrow's so-called normal will look like. So those are some of my thoughts, and I look forward to the question and answer session.
Thank you, Maureen McTeer. Wonderful to hear you speak, Maureen. Thank you so much. Just out of just a little interesting little tidbit. My daughter is starting her undergraduate next year, and she plans to be a family lawyer. And it was something that she just said, well, why can't I be a lawyer? And I said, no reason, no reason, just do it. So she's, I'm looking forward to that. Also, 5 girls in my family, and one of my sisters is Colleen. There, we have something in common.
Those Irish.
Oh, those Irish.
Valley.
Yeah,
the fight valley.
We call them the fighting Irish, but sometimes women need that ability to fight, don't we? So good on you, and thank you. You've been a role model, and I do look forward to that book. It's been fascinating, some of the technologies and what they have meant and what they're going to mean down the line. There's a Pandora's box that we've opened, and women have to be aware of what's happening. So, and Catherine is fabulous. You're not the only one. You're not the only one who thinks that. So, Maureen, thank you so much. Wonderful to hear all you. So that's our 3 speakers tonight, Mr. Brockington. So you're going to take over the discussion right now and ask the questions and direct the responses. Got to give this guy a little bit of a bigger role here. Okay, Riley, take it away.
Thank you so much, Carolyn. Please don't go too far. I'm sure.
I'm not going far at all, because I want to hear all of this.
Excellent. What powerful, authentic, from the heart words from our 3 guest speakers tonight. Thank you all very much. I was moved by all 3 of them. Rachel, thank you. You first started off talking about the importance of connecting with people, have passion in what you do, the importance of remaining true to yourself, who you are, being authentic, be yourself, not trying to change because of what others think, but you are who you are, and the importance. And yes, sense of humor is very important. That in so many times, a sense of humor can help in the workplace and in relationships. And Jamie, similarly, you talked about surrounding yourself with others and the importance of building meaningful relationships, not just in professional life, but personal life as well. And talked about the strength of the community when we all come together. You talked about your experiences and the positions that you've had. And again, having faith in yourself to get through some of the more difficult times, but again, knowing that knowing who you are and where you want to go is also very important. Thank you for your service. And Ms. McTeer, thank you. A true trailblazer. Thank you for going into law and using your fantastic skill set to make some significant changes, not just for your advocacy for women and women's rights, but the reforms that you've helped lead using your background in law has so been very, very important. leaving us with three main thoughts: stand up and be counted, return a favor, and the importance of resilience. And I just want to say that as much as we like and know Catherine, and as much as we know and like Mr. Clark, you are the national treasure. And thank you for your words tonight with us. Thank you very, very much. So,
I hope my husband heard that.
Courtney, I'm not sure, and I wanted to acknowledge Courtney as well. Courtney McCurry is my office manager, and she's helped organize tonight and keep us all flowing. And thank you, Courtney, for all the work that you've done to get this off the ground and such a successful evening tonight. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
So how are we going to do this? Do folks, can you see people when they raise their hand?
Yeah, so I think if people want to raise their hand, that way I can unmute them and they can speak out loud. Or if people would prefer to use the chat, you can also ask the questions there, and I'll try to direct. We'll kind of do a bit of both with people kind of going live and people in the chat. So if anyone does have any questions, you can choose either or method. I can start. There was a question here. Aya Ozina was asking, how does a young person find a mentor in their chosen field?
So would one of the three of you like to answer that?